My name is Raul Ramirez. I'm with the Catch Wrestling Alliance, where we keep real wrestling alive. Thank you for joining me today. Um, we're on Twitch also, if that's more convenient. But we're also on every podcast platform. So, thank you for joining us wherever you are joining us from. I want to get to a few announcements before we get to the main topic. So I was requested by UCLA Martial Arts to teach classes at UCLA again. Actually, I used to teach Sanda, which is, I don't know if you can see on my shirt for those of you watching the video of the live stream. Um, I was requested to teach Sanda and catch wrestling at UCLA at their gym, it's called the John Wooden Center. This is a gym that is actually available to not only students and staff at UCLA, but it's actually open to the public. So anybody can actually become a member of this gym and take my classes. I believe that they might offer some kind of package where there's like a group of grappling classes. Actually, let me kind of back up a second. So the cool thing about the school gym at UCLA, it's called the John Wooden Center. Um, One of the cool things about it is that we offer, besides just like gym and cardio machines and whatnot, we offer several types of classes. So whether it be dancing or other kinds of physical activities like spinning and other kinds of workout things, yoga and whatnot. But we also offer a variety of martial arts, so striking martial arts and grappling martial arts. So what it's looking like to me, like, so I worked there a long time ago, and I was requested to work there again. So I don't know, like, I'm sure plenty of things have changed. And so what it's appearing to be or is that it looks as though now, instead of just like signing up to take my class, I think they've grouped all the grappling oriented arts as like one package. So you can buy an inexpensive package because this is a public university, so everything's at a cheaper cost to make things more accessible to the public or to the students as well. Um, so I believe that there is a kind of like a grappling pass. So that's how it's appearing, and that's kind of the sense I'm getting. But I'm not back there yet. I believe this class will start right at the beginning of October because UCLA's classes usually start like right at the end of September. So then the recreation classes or the martial arts classes in the gym will start, when the majority of the students are back, and they will have COVID protocols and whatnot. So, but yeah, anybody can join the gym, and then once you're a member of the gym, then you can work out there, right? You can do your cardio there, you can do your weights and whatnot, because they actually have really great workout equipment. So that's one of the things that I really missed about the gym because uh, I used to be a trainer there. So besides teaching Sanda, like Chinese kickboxing, I used to train student athletes and professors and basically anybody that who requested personal training. But One of the things that I always liked is our high quality equipment. That going to other gyms around LA, it was just some of these gyms around LA are very expensive to join. But when I would get access to some of these gyms, like some of these really expensive ones, the equipment still was not as good as UCLA's gym, which is available to the public. You can anybody can join that gym. The only thing I guess would be like parking. It's like parking around campus is, it can be tough at times because there's a lot of traffic around there, and you have to pay for parking anyway. Um, so anyway, I don't know what the fee for membership is, um, but I doubt it is as much as like a lot of these fancy gyms around LA. It's probably just a tiny fraction of the monthly fee of a lot of gyms. So it would probably be something to look into. If you're wanting to not only take catch wrestling but to take like jujitsu, and I believe we have judo there. I think we have a few like grappling oriented styles. So, and it does appear from, because they're showing me some preliminary stuff about their website, and the showing the catalog of what they have in it. I do believe, hopefully I'm not wrong, but I do believe that you can get a grappling pass to take the grappling classes. So I thought that was something that I'd want to share with everybody, because it sounds like a pretty cool deal. Um, Especially if you're interested in judo and jujitsu and stuff, and so you can really get a lot of bang for your buck at UCLA, because I think that price for that pass, the grappling pass, it wouldn't be like a monthly thing. Uh, it would be a quarter thing, because they're on the quarter system. So um, it would be for a few months, right? So very, very inexpensive to be able to take grappling classes. So that would probably be the cheapest way, because like a lot of jujitsu gyms around Los Angeles are around $200 a month. I don't know where you're listening from, but in LA, these prices for martial arts gyms are astronomical. I think probably the cheapest you can get would be something like boxing gyms, right? They can be a little cheaper, um, but like a lot of gyms, whether it's just like to work out, but especially jujitsu right now, jujitsu is really kind of like a almost like a luxury type thing. So around LA, I mean, I've heard all kinds of prices, like $300 a month, and and up. So um, yeah, it's not. So imagine paying less than $100 for like 3 months of multiple grappling classes, and you have the high quality workout equipment. Because a lot of gyms, like a lot of jujitsu gyms, they will have high quality jujitsu instruction, but they wouldn't necessarily have the cardio equipment and the weights and stuff, like the high quality weights with squat racks and bumper plates and all these other things. That those of you who go to the gym a lot, if you like to do like the Olympic lifts and stuff like that, we have the equipment to facilitate all that. So um, it might be something to look into. I'll be there starting October. So I will be teaching again, like sanda and catch wrestling. For those of you who do not know what sanda is, that's Chinese kickboxing. So it is very similar to Muay Thai, except there's more wrestling involved in sanda, and so there's a lot of takedowns. There's a lot of kick catching techniques that are not in Muay Thai. So it's still more a striking style, but has a lot of, we say, like quick takedowns. So in Chinese, they say fast throws. So it's a lot of ways to counter punches and kicks and get the person down quickly. I personally believe that it's one of the best striking arts for MMA. For those of you who want to do MMA, this is really like an easy bridge from like having a good stand-up base to a good takedown game. You don't have to just be doing like double leg takedowns all the time. You can do all kinds of takedowns, all kinds of kick catches, depending on how your opponent attacks you. So yeah, there's kind of like offensive takedowns and counter takedowns. So it's really a dynamic and fun art. I was a two-time U.S. national champion in Sanda, and that's kind of what led me to catch wrestling. So like, because I had kind of like the Sanda wrestling fundamentals, and then I also did another form of Chinese wrestling. I also at UCLA, I did, because we had a wide variety of martial arts classes at the Wooden Center. I also competed and trained in sumo wrestling. So when I wanted to add more joint locks and stuff, I did take the jujitsu classes. And at that time, even though nogi wasn't as popular as it is today, we still offered some nogi. And so, like, I felt that jujitsu, like, still didn't quite match my understanding of grappling. I was still able to really hold my own, just with the fundamentals that I had from the Chinese grappling styles and even the sumo stuff. But like that led me to like research like what else could there be, because I didn't want to just do amateur wrestling because no joint locks, right? So then that's how I like searched and searched and found catch wrestling, and then luckily, I was studying it already with Billy Robinson. But then soon after that, the Snake Pit in Wigan, so the original home of catch wrestling, with head coach Roy Wood, they started offering catch wrestling again, and I had to apply, and I was part of their first kind of, I don't know how nowadays you probably call it a cohort, right? That word's being circulated around the news a lot, right? Because talking about different cohorts with schools and stuff, like having small groups of children in a class, and so anyway, I was one of the first cohorts at the Snake Pit in Wigan, training and competing there in their international catch wrestling events. So that kind of is what led me to catch wrestling. So you guys can kind of know my background, because I know you might just be here for the first time, and you might not know what my background is and why I'm qualified to speak about catch wrestling. By the way, I also have like the equivalent of like a black belt in the American catch wrestling system called American Hook Wrestling, which is the American lineage of catch wrestling. And so the lineage holder is, his name is John Strickland. So that's kind of like the whole Frank Gotch, Farmer Burns American lineage that exists today, but that came through Wigan, came through England, from England down to Tom Connors, and then Martin Burns, and so on. So it still exists. So I feel like I'm qualified. So the over 10 years of experience, right? So actually, there's a couple questions already. So let me go ahead and answer, because they're kind of striking uh, based, right? So first one, Flo. Hello, Flo. And then number two, Adriano Ramos. How would catch wrestling do against a Muay Thai fighter, in your opinion? Um, if you can avoid the strikes, then you can just kind of go in, and if you're able to catch the kick, then yeah, you can totally take someone down. Or if you can close the distance quickly, you can grab the person and throw them down. But that's easier said than done. We have a lot of instances where there has been like style versus style, and one of the main ones that I remember, it might be like a mythical, or like I might not be remembering it clearly, because it really it was a real cool moment. But I think there was, back in Japan, when there was Pride, like the MMA outfit, and then K1, which is more like the striking one, and I think they had like a mixed night, where at that time, the at that moment, he was a kickboxer mostly. So Krokop, the guy named Krokop, right? Mythical. Um, and later he started doing MMA, right? But the Krokop was like the kickboxer, and then they put him up against MMA person, and like I think as soon as the MMA person kind of went down to do a double leg, like I believe it was Krokop who just like kneed him in the face on the way in, and like busted the dude's nose, and I think he knocked him out if I remember correctly. But I'm sure there are a lot of similar instances. So don't just think like, oh, you're a Muay Thai person or you're a striker, and I'm just gonna close the distance and take you down. I want to give striking more credit. Also, too, since I'm a former striking champion, so there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it, especially since the striking that I did incorporated takedowns, and the many wrestling fundamentals, at least the stand-up takedown stuff. And so I know it's like if someone is trying to take you down, and sound that, it's like you're kind of trained to counter someone's takedown attempts. So um, don't take a striker lightly, but yeah, a lot of times it is about closing the distance, or if you're used to catching kicks, then you don't necessarily have to close the distance as much. But you just have to make sure you don't get knocked out by their kick or their punch and stuff. So um, there's always risk, right? Okay, so with that being said, if anybody feel free to comment. I'll try to get to it, but I want to kind of get to the main topic of today. So the mythical catch wrestler. There's I think there's several myths, or there's several mythical catch wrestlers that are in existence. I want to talk about one that a lot of our haters like will comment on our social media, and so let's talk about this one first, because this is from a regularly occurring comment, but it also occurred again this week, where someone was trying to say that, oh, catch wrestlers are only like keyboard warriors, and nobody competes, and you know, uh, so I so for those of you, or for I doubt anybody listening to this would think that, but just for people's information, for your information, we have so many match videos on our YouTube channel alone of several events that we did with real catch wrestling rules, with real wrestlers. We had NCAA referees. So no, we're not just keyboard warriors. Also, too, like I mentioned, my years training in Wigan. So I would go every year. Even I live in Los Angeles, but then I would make the pilgrimage every year. Um, so every year at the end of training, so at the end, usually on the weekend, right? Like we would or they would organize matches. Right. So, trained and then competed. So it's like we're not just keyboard warriors. Um, but that's the thing. I do believe, like they always talk about, there is kind of truth at the core of every myth, right? So this criticism that people are claiming, I think there is probably some validity to it, because I'm sure there are plenty of people, and I think I've seen it where it's like maybe someone will just automatically comment like, "Oh, I hate jujitsu," or "I hate whatever other grappling style." Usually jujitsu, because jujitsu is like the most popular grappling style nowadays. So people might comment something like, "Oh, I hate jujitsu, catch wrestling forever," and then they don't really compete, or if you look at their social media, they're more like a troll or whatever. So I'm happy that they like catch wrestling so much, uh, but that might be the source of people claiming like, "Oh, catch wrestlers are just keyboard warriors," when you might have someone who's just a big fan of catch wrestling, because our matches are actually pretty exciting. Um, so I want to try to continue that. I want to try to continue having matches. Um, and we'll see kind of first big event. And actually, our first event was at UCLA. So I organized it there. So hopefully we can then get back to having events at UCLA. But a big like university like that will definitely have to wait and see with regards to COVID protocols and all that. Um, but in the meantime, while we wait for all that stuff to be cleared up, hopefully we can get more. Maybe we can do a smaller venue without any audience, where we can have a few matches for this year. So that's kind of the goal. But the thing is, with that being said, that's more evidence that we have matches, we have people who are training, we have competitors who they don't only compete in catch wrestling, they also compete in like no-gi or gi and all that. So whenever you see someone comment that catch wrestlers are only keyboard warriors, then it's just not true. So a lot of times that's why I don't really get upset about it, but I figured I would just address it, where it's like, are you, because I think the comment was on our YouTube channel, so it's like, do you even look at any other videos that we have on our YouTube channel? Because I made playlists with that, with a lot of our match footage, and it should be easy to find. So, um, so there, right? So yeah, so it doesn't bother me, but I just kind of wanted to point it out. And there's other kind of mythical catch wrestlers too, and I think that kind of I kind of want to talk about this also because catch wrestling did have a great history, and I do believe that many people are kind of still stuck in the past with catch wrestling, right? They have like nostalgia to all these black and white like photos and the records, like the match records of a lot of these great catch wrestlers and catch wrestling champions, and many of them did like challenge matches with against people of various martial art styles and all that, and even like the history of luta libre. A lot of you guys bring up luta libre a lot also. So catch wrestling has a very real like history in combat sports and in competition, besides the like the pro wrestling stuff, right? um so with that being said, it's like, you know, there were a lot of great grapplers at that time who, destroyed judo people and jujitsu people. But I think what people nowadays are forgetting is a lot of the work they put into competing, right? So there was a lot of training involved. Sometimes even there was like a lot of vetting, right? Where it's like sometimes you had to be kind of accepted into a gym. Say like in Wigan, the way it goes is like you could show up, but they wouldn't necessarily teach you anything until you proved that you wanted to be there. So you'd have to go back every day or every week and get beat up, by everybody before they started pointing out like what you were doing wrong and started training you after that. So that's kind of similar to many stories I've heard about the United States. Like there was kind of like invitations to certain gyms, um, so you kind of had to prove yourself. So it wasn't just like this. It wasn't just everywhere, and it wasn't like anybody just do a free for all kind of thing. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of. With that being said, I mean, when you were there training, you trained, and you put a lot of work into your like honing your craft and getting good at all the techniques, right? And so that's another thing that the mythical catch wrestler, the unbeatable catch wrestler, um, did to make themselves unbeatable, right? So people nowadays, a lot of times, at least what I've seen is that like they think like, oh, if I just learn some cool techniques, or maybe they see like a sequence of a few submission holds that are labeled catch wrestling. Um, and then think, oh, that this is all I need to beat the jujitsu game. But there's more to it than that. There's more wrestling fundamentals. There's more to doing submission holds effectively, and you got to be training all the time. You can't just be doing like one DVD or one uh, like one seminar or something like that. So that would be like the second kind of mythical catch wrestler that I often kind of see, or like necessarily I don't necessarily see them, right? Because they're mythical, but it's like people are alluding to this. And so one of the goals of the Catch Wrestling Alliance is that we want to bring like we want to bring catch wrestling to modern times. So we have real practitioners who are actually very excellent at catch wrestling. So probably one of the ones that you can actually see his matches on our YouTube channel would be Matt Tran. I believe he doesn't get enough credit. Hopefully, he can be competing soon again in catch wrestling. He's done MMA. He's done no-gi competitions and won, and also he's got about like I think 3 matches or 4 matches on our YouTube channel. He's got a few. He's got a few, and actually, he's one of the people that, say, like, a person who I interviewed on this channel. He's a historian, kind of anthropologist by training, uh, but from Brazil, who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, Thiago. You can look back a few months to our interview, but Matt Tran was the person that he saw, uh, and he saw in one of our videos, and then he kind of reached out to me, and he was talking about just how like, even though Thiago had this background, black belt level, it from Brazil, and he actually has trained with a lot of really very famous uh, jiu-jitsu people from Brazil. He was just really blown away by the techniques and the way Matt Tran moved. But Matt Tran, would be the person, probably one of the very few who only did catch wrestling as his grappling art. So he is from the East Coast, trained by John Strickland, out there, by, like, his organization is called American Hook Wrestling. I mentioned them earlier. So Matt would be kind of like one of these like pure catch wrestlers, and he's showing how he's still able to win. So that is very real. It's not like this mythical type thing where it's like back in the olden days when all the pictures are in black and white and all that. So we're actually uh, showing that he actually put in a lot of work. And like he's competed in various sports, grappling and MMA, and he's able to win. So um, like we're showing, not just like talking about it, right? So we're showing the action and the actual art, and not just being keyboard warriors about it. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and let me know your thoughts. Go ahead and comment, ask questions. We have another one this time from Ripper Catch Wrestling, all the way in the UK. It says Marco Huas, to me is the guy Hickson Gracie was scared of. All right. Yeah, there's this real long history, and like it's pretty interesting with regards to the development of jiu-jitsu, especially Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Um, but yeah, I mean, like the myths kind of develop around different people as well, besides the arts, right? So Hickson Gracie is kind of legendary, but as kind of being like an unbeatable kind of person. Uh, but yeah, it's like everyone can be beaten. Um, yeah, it's great. And actually, coming to think about it, like, I think one example of kind of an art that kind of can keep you humble is sumo wrestling, and I think uh, like because you compete so frequently. So every tournament, they do frequent tournaments throughout the year, and it's a 15-day long tournament. So you have a match every day for 15 days. So there's like no way that you cannot like have a perfect record. So currently there's a man who's considered like the greatest person to ever do sumo. His fighting name is Hakuho. um, it's kind of I try to pronounce it in a way that's like that more people can understand, right? Because I thought, but to my ear, it sounded hilarious. But yeah, Hakuho, he is currently like the winningest the winningest sumo wrestler to ever do the sport, and he's won 40 tournaments, or I think 40, or maybe he's won 41 or 42 by now. But anyway, he's won the most of all time, but he still has losses. And so I wish that we can be doing maybe catch wrestling maybe more frequently. So then, so there isn't like this perfect record for everybody, and that would actually be a little bit more realistic. Uh, like there's a lot of jiu-jitsu tournaments frequently, so people, even though it might not be pro, if they're doing like their random, like a neighborhood local jiu-jitsu tournament, they might lose there, so it might not necessarily be on a pro record, but at least they taste the defeat so that you can kind of stay humble, right? uh, say like even in MMA, I think because of also striking, so sometimes like after a match, even if you win, if you took a lot of like hits to your head, or if you took some enough damage, then you will be put on a medical suspension. So then MMA fighters might not be able to compete so frequently. So that's why you'll have some people who might be undefeated, but total fights might not be that many. So it's almost like if you had them fight enough, then eventually they'll lose, right? And so you will see that in Muay Thai actually, because um, in Thailand, people are fighting like all the time. So you'll see some people with like over 100 matches, right? So, but they will still have losses, right? And that's the thing. So there'll be legendary fighters who can beat most opponents, but they've still tasted defeat, right? So I think that's motivating, because right now in MMA in particular, it's like it seems like if you're doing really well and you lose one, then like your stock goes down, your fans go away, this person's dog runs away, turns their turns their head away from you, and it seems like a bigger thing. So a loss seems like a bigger uh event than than it really should be, I believe, compared to these martial arts that have frequent frequent matches. um yeah. So it seems like, like, yeah, it seems like one person's like on the top of the world, and then if they lose one match, then on social media they're just trashed, like, oh, they were never that great and all that. But you know, it's totally not true. If you take that with a grain of salt, I guess, with like criticism, if the more people compete, totally the numbers game would make it so that you would eventually have to lose at least one. Yeah. So yeah, keep on asking questions. I know I didn't announce this I didn't announce this live stream, but um, but I'm happy for the comments that we've gotten so far. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to comment. But I think I've kind of made my point. With regards to these myths where people might try to criticize catch wrestling. It could be like like I said, there's like some grain of truth to what people are saying, but it's our goal for Catch Wrestling Alliance is to kind of make actual like legit catch wrestlers and have actual competitions, um, and really just grow the sport. So remember, so for those of you who weren't here at the beginning of the chat, I will be teaching again. So I'll be teaching Sanda, so Chinese kickboxing, and catch wrestling at UCLA this fall. So starting in October, the class is actually open to the public. Students are automatically granted access to the gym. Public will actually have to join the gym, but it will probably be a fraction of joining an actual like gym. I think it's probably just like yearly fees as opposed to monthly fees. But I'm not back there yet, so I don't really know that. But like a long time ago when I did work there in the past, that's kind of how it was. I think you can join the gym and then you can join the classes on top of that. But I believe nowadays there's some kind of like different martial arts pass, so you can take all the grappling oriented classes or all the striking oriented classes and stuff. So it seems like a pretty good deal. A lot cheaper than paying like over $200 or $300 a month for your local jiu-jitsu gym, where they don't have high quality workout equipment, high quality cardio equipment, and whatnot. Which UCLA at their gym, the John Wooden Center, they have like really really great quality workout equipment. So um, so there's that, right? um, Also, too, if anybody wants to become a member of this channel and just to support us, support what we're doing, it's as easy as donating like $2 a month. You would just do that directly on our YouTube channel. Like under the video, there's like a I think it says like membership or something like that. We have different tiers. And so doing the middle or the medium, how to say medium or middle tier, that gives you access to a lot of videos that we have behind a paywall. So you have access to that. So we have several videos there, and I believe that is like $4.99 a month. So consider contributing, and then also for the highest tier, that will grant you, if you do the highest tier, you have to let me know. So send me a message on, like, usually through our Facebook or something. That's usually the easiest way, like where it doesn't really seem to get lost. Um, so Facebook, or probably even Instagram, or you can email me. You can, on our YouTube channel, on the information page, it should have, or the about page on our channel, I believe it does have a way to send an email. Then I will enroll you in our online course. We call it the CWA Academy. So that is through our website. So that would be off of YouTube. But if you join our channel at the highest tier, then you would have access to both the what we have behind the paywall here, and our CWA Academy, right? All right. So Ripper Catch Wrestling has a comment that, yeah, I think it's good. Did you know that the YMCA was critical in the early 20th century to the preservation of catch wrestling in America? Did you know this? All right, so um, he is correct in that. So we have all these different gyms around the United States, and members would, um, they would be able to meet there and train, right? Yeah, so Ripper Catch Wrestling is like, yeah, I knew that. Yeah, of course you knew that because you brought it up. But yeah, so a lot of times there's a lot of really cool old photographs of guys training together, and a lot of times if it's like a group of guys and it seems like a room type setting, oftentimes it was like the YMCA or the sporting clubs of different cities, and it was, even in Coach Billy Robinson's time, he's spoken about being able to travel around, and if you wanted to spar or whatever, or just grapple a little bit, you could find decent training partners at the local YMCA. I believe it's like the Young Men's. I forget. Oh, Christian Association, actually. Yeah, I believe that's what the letters stand for. So yeah, it was basically started as like community gyms and stuff for people to be active and gather and stuff. So the wrestling styles available there were catch as catch can, but I'm sure it's probably free where you can kind of practice whatever you want with a pretty decent partner, because people were training regularly there. Yeah. Yep. So Ripper Catch Wrestling, people or lower classes. Yeah. So that's what I was saying too. Like, yeah, it was more accessible to a wider variety of people. Um, and I believe the YMCA was even mentioned in Farmer Burns' writings as a really great place to take your kids and whatnot, or to be involved with. Um, Yeah, yeah. So all these kinds of things where it's like community oriented are great. So in a way, speaking of YMCA, that even though UCLA is not a YMCA, it is still a public university. So it's a public institution. So that means that they offer services, or like even like memberships and all the different things that are associated with a public university or public institution, tend to be offered at a lower cost to the public. So that being said, is like you don't have to be a student to join the gym at UCLA, um, but you do have to join. You have to pay something. Right? So so just to let you know, that's kind of the difference, where it's like you have these great projects, that um, are often offered to people. Right. Cool. Any more questions? Ripper Catch Wrestling said, uh, Ripper is like a very, very enthusiastic catch wrestling fan in the UK. So welcome. Thank you for commenting. All right. So actually, we've been on for a little while. Let me know if you have any other questions or comments. Feel free. But I think I kind of got my point across about at least two mythical catch wrestlers. Like people say that we're just keyboard warriors, but just look at our YouTube channel. It's like we have tons of match footage and all that. So um, we're not. And then there's also kind of like this nostalgia catch wrestling person where it's like the mythical the myth of the unbeatable catch wrestler, but um, which I believe kind of can create the idea where someone thinks like if they just learn a few submission holds from catch wrestling, then they're going to be as unbeatable as some of these catch wrestlers in the past. That's just not true. You need to be training and practicing all these holds and from various positions and whatnot, right? And all the wrestling fundamentals as well as the submission holds. This actually goes along the lines with Farmer Burns' writings as well. It's like you got to know wrestling, plus you have to know the ins and outs of the submission holds. He wrote about it in one of his books, I believe, probably in both, where it's like the one you can get on Amazon, where it's like a lot of his correspondence course stuff, or even the book, the life work of Farmer Burns. I'm sure it's stated in both texts. Yeah. All right. Okay, so with that being said, thank you everyone for watching or listening. Available on Twitch as well as YouTube and on all podcast platforms. So, with your help, we will keep real wrestling alive. Thanks for listening.